How to reduce your debt. Has debt taken a hold of your life and you're looking for a way out and you don't know where to go? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss that very topic. In this episode, we're going to discuss staggering statistics concerning current levels of debt. Next, I'll discuss how you can properly identify your debt situation and calculate disposable income. Then I'll finish off with an actionable plan to help you pay off your debt. It's no mystery that we are in tough economic times. After the pandemic had happened, we had a big slope down. People didn't really know where they were going to work at. They didn't know what was going to happen. And then the government began to infuse money into the economy. People got stimulus checks, jobs started increasing wages, and from there the economy just really took off. So we had an extraordinary amount of not only savings, but we had lower debt at that time as well. 2021 was similar to 2020. Things were still booming very nicely. In 2022 is when things started to take a nosedive. Debt started increasing, savings started to deplenish, and the main reason for that is, you bet, inflation. People are paying more for everything. Wages are still climbing, but people are still paying more for goods, services, homes, and everything across the board. In fact, they're paying much more than they were paying in 2020 or even 2021. So it doesn't matter that wages were increasing, debt was also increasing. Unbelievably, credit card debt as of this month in 2023 has reached almost $1 trillion. That's the highest level of credit card debt that we've ever seen in the States. It's never happened before, and here we stand. And what's even more troubling is that the economy's still getting worse in the US. So odds are that towards the end of this year, all those numbers are going to increase even further. Now, while debt is increasing, savings is decreasing. It turns out that 42% of Americans in 2023 have less than $1,000 in their savings. Now, this is problematic across the board. Obviously, if we've got debt increasing, savings decreasing, inflation still relatively high, it's really going to be a balancing act that a lot of people aren't going to do well. In other words, later on this year, we're going to see a lot of people that are going to have massive financial trouble. So what do we do about that financial trouble? That's what we're going to talk about. The first thing that we can do about potential financial trouble is we have to be able to actually gauge where we're at. And if you follow me, you know that I talk about this frequently. Creating a budget, knowing what's happening each month, what's going in and what's coming out every single month. For me, it's unbelievable how many people do not know what's happening specifically on their finances every single month. And it's really just something that only takes a few minutes of your time. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull out your Word document, your Excel spreadsheet, or if you don't do either one of those, simply just put it on a piece of paper. All you're going to do is you're going to list all of your debts, all of your expenses. Alongside all of those expenses, you're going to list your interest rates, your balances, and your limits on your credit cards. If you have student loans, a car loan, or a mortgage, you're going to also list that debt with interest rate and how much you have to go to pay those off. So that's going to give us all the data we need on the expense side. So now we got to add the income side. The income side is going to be your income. If you have your regular job, a side hustle, if you're an entrepreneur, all money that's coming in. If you're married, it's going to be you and your spouse's income, all of your income together. And then simply, you're just going to take your expenses and you're going to subtract them from what you bring in every month. And whatever is left at the end of the month is going to be your disposable income. And hopefully it's going to be positive and not negative. So disposable income is going to be everything that's left that you're free to do whatever you want with it. In this case, if we're bogged down by debt, we're going to obviously want to put that money to work to help us pay down those items. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe to my channel. As you know, the YouTube algorithm is very picky. We're trying to grow out our channel, and the only way to do that is if you smash that like button and you subscribe to my channel. Okay, now that you have your budget listed out, now you have a real snapshot of, okay, this is what my financial life looks like. This is who I am. For some of you, you may find that it's very difficult to kind of swallow the debt that you've accumulated once you actually look at it on paper. Don't worry, we've all been there. Here's our plan that's going to help you start to tackle that debt. What I recommend, first and foremost, is that you're going to list all of your credit cards because this is what most people are plagued down by. Your mortgage debt, That's a good kind of debt, usually not going to pay off several $100,000. Your student loan debt, that's a long-term situation, typically carries fairly low interest rates. I know my student loans are like 3.5%, my wife's are like 6%. Not something that we're going to be terribly interested in paying off first. However, credit card debt comes with these extraordinarily high interest rates. So you want to list each one of your credit cards, their interest rates, your limits, and your balances. And it is going to make sense to pay off the credit cards that carry the highest interest rates first. And there's some people who say that maybe that's not the best idea. They'll tell you maybe pay off your credit cards with the lowest balances first, and there's a psychological trigger that happens there. In other words, if you've got credit cards that you owe $20,000 on and you've got credit cards that you owe $500 on, they're saying, hey, pay the $500 one off. It frees up extra money to pay the big one on, and it also creates this psychology in your mind that makes you feel like you're doing something. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to tackle the ones with the biggest interest rates. I like both ideas. Both are similar in nature, but the main thing here is that we know what's coming in, what's going out, what interest rates we're paying, and we have a plan of attack. That's the biggest issue, is that most people don't plan their attack. They just know they have a bunch of debt. They have not really a good understanding of how much debt they have, and then they've got no plan to take care of that debt. One of the most common questions people ask me all the time is, should I get a debt consolidation loan to knock out all that credit card debt and put a little bit of money in my savings? And I say, possibly. If you've got strong credit scores, and we're talking about a 680 and above, preferably above into the 700s, a debt consolidation loan may make sense for you. And what that is you're going to take out a full loan to cover all of your credit card payments, and in some cases put a little bit of money in your savings account. Mind you, right now the Fed has been hiking rates, which means that it's more expensive to borrow money. So where a couple years ago you could borrow money at 7% or 6% or 8%, now it's going to cost you 12% to 20%, maybe even 25%. So the best way to gauge this is going to be to first of all see if you're eligible. If you're eligible for a debt consolidation loan, it might be just a ticket to help give you some financial relief. The way that you would evaluate that is that you would look at all of your debt, your interest rates, and determine if that loan is actually going to save you money at the end of the month. A lot of people say, well, does the loan have to be less interest than what I'm paying in credit card? And I say, maybe. Ideally, you want your debt consolidation loan to be lower interest than your credit cards, right? But sometimes that's not possible. But at the end of the day, what you really want is you really want your disposable income that we discovered just a few minutes ago to grow. So if you could knock out 5 or 6 credit cards on debt and you have a lower payment each month and you've extinguished all that credit card debt, and instead of paying every single month a whole ton of interest, you spread it out over the next 3, 5, or even 7 years on a loan, sometimes that makes sense. Just having the relief of knowing that you have more disposable income and you've wiped out your credit card debt so that you have that there in case of an emergency, and then potentially even have a little bit of money to put in your savings, sometimes that makes sense. Another type of kind of debt consolidation program that I hear people talk about a lot, if you search it on the internet, you're going to get all kinds of hits. And what they are is they're not debt consolidation loans, they're debt consolidation programs. And those programs actually ask that you stop paying on all of your debt, you pay them a monthly fee, and they'll go in and settle that debt for you. Now, I'm not really a big fan of that. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it's not for you. I'm giving you my opinion. I'm not really a fan of that. And the reason is because you're blowing out your credit. You're completely decimating your credit. So if you're going to decimate your credit by doing a program like that, sometimes bankruptcy makes sense. If you're so far upside down, there's no way that you could possibly work your way out of it. You've written up your budget. There is negative disposable income at the end of the month, meaning you're paying more than what you're bringing in each month. Sometimes bankruptcy does make sense. Essentially, depending upon what program you go with, they could completely discharge all of your debt and you get a redo. Now, it will be on your credit. It will destroy your credit. But if you're already destroying your credit, there's really not a whole lot of risk involved in that. And in terms of these programs that ask you not to pay your bills and then settle for you, that destroys your credit. So why not just go to the federal government, file bankruptcy, and get those protections? And by protections, I mean the federal government will actually protect you from your creditors. They won't be allowed to sue you. They won't be allowed to harass you. Complete protection. So My opinion is that if your situation is that far gone, and that's fine if that's you, sometimes that happens, then it may make sense to do a bankruptcy over trying to do one of those debt consolidation programs, or even maybe doing a debt consolidation loan. What it does is it gives you financial relief. It allows you to sleep better at night. If you have credit challenges, or maybe just want to take a look at your credit to see if there's options that are out there to help you, please click in the link in the description below. We offer a complimentary credit analysis. The only caveat is that you have to sign up for a system that we use called Smart Credit. And that Smart Credit system gives us a tri-merge report, a report from each one of the 3 bureaus, which allows us to be able to build out a plan and complete a full credit analysis for you.